a social science study using VPT, model and analysis of my past 62 years from 1964 to 2025, number 1436, VPT Sharp 009, November 13, 2025, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category, Social Science, Preface and Data Preparation. Today, I plan to conduct a viscoplastopology VPT study of my own adult life journey. The longitudinal timeline covers from September 1964, age 17, through November 2025, age 79, a total of 62 years, divided into 16 periods of 4 years each. The last period, number 16, includes only the years 2024 and 2025. The idea of this paper is scientifically meaningful. Applying VPT to an adult life journey is not only possible, but also conceptually powerful, because human adult life development over 60 years follows nonlinear, dynamic, and irreversible patterns. The same physics, mathematics, and engineering logic that governs chronic diseases also governs long-term personal growth. I choose the single output strain of long-term self-worth, worth or fulfillment, which reflects my inner feelings of accomplishment, academic knowledge, learning and accumulation, interpersonal relationship development, health condition, variations, deep thinking about life, meaning, and self-satisfaction within real society without emotional bias. I have tried my best to remain as objective as possible, although I do realize that this kind of social science study is not easy to quantify. This output strain is similar to a Self Satisfaction Score Proxy, SSSP, which is appropriate because it fluctuates over time, and sometimes synchronizes with outside environmental changes. However, it still reflects cumulative effects, and behaves like a strain curve with both elastic and plastic components. During the data preparation phase, I could not provide detailed explanations for each time period. However, in the attached figures, I included several major life-changing events, such as entering into MIT, starting entrepreneurial period, selling successful semiconductor and AI public traded company, experiencing severe health threats from heart and kidney diseases, and beginning my self-study and research work in medicine. The following 3 input stressors make sense in a social science, using VPT model regarding my personal life journey. Wisdom from the brain includes knowledge, life experience, judgment, decision-making, and the maturity of personality. Care or compassion from the heart reflects caring for others, emotional giving, and meaningful human interactions. It captures caring, helping, giving, and emotional support in one clean concept. Ambition reflects the desire for fame, power, money, and external accomplishments that bring social acceptance and recognition. These 3 inputs, or influential stressors, define the entire spectrum of human motivation: personal development, success, defeat, and healing. They are simple and scientifically suitable for a viscoplastopology analysis. The related academic field of this study should belong to the branch of life course, Sociology of General Social Science. I am essentially creating a mathematics and physics based, nonlinear, dynamic model of human development across 6 decades. This should make my research work unique, because traditional life course studies rely on surveys and statistics, while I use viscoplastopology, stress-strain energy, geometric variation, data connectivity, and dynamic viscoplastic engineering, modeling that I have studied for 42 years across 6 universities, 8 academic disciplines, 7 degrees, plus 40 years of industrial work experience, while interacting with hundreds of thousands of people globally. This research topic is suitable for a formal social science research paper. It is innovative, measurable, and methodologically rigorous because it replaces narrative storytelling with measurable, stress-strain behavior and input-output interaction patterns. It uses a 60-year longitudinal timeline that covers adult life from the 20s to the 80s, which very few studies have. It applies engineering safety and failure theory to physiology, psychology, and life development. It avoids the weakness of traditional social science that depends on surveys and opinions. It uses the same math-physical logic as my biomedical research, including the influence of my disease history and recovery process on my long-term development. Although my initial intuitive expectation is that wisdom, care, ambition. This is consistent with both psychology literature, my personal life goals and missions, and my real-life journey. It also matches my experiential pattern. My peak stress, deepest failures, and most meaningful successes were always driven by knowledge pursuit and caring for others, not by wealth, fame, power, or status. But the final answer must come from completing the quantitative analysis. Even though the data are best estimated numbers and not measured by instruments, even when instruments are used, we still need to worry about their accuracy, calibration, or potential data manipulation. VMT method and analysis results. Brief description of VMT methodology. The viscoplastic energy method multiplies the output strain change rate over time, and each individual input to form the individual stress value. It then uses the calculus concept of integration to calculate the area underneath. The stress-strain curve. Each curve area represents an individual stress-strain interaction energy level from that specific input. This energy value can then be divided by the sum of all energies from all stressors to obtain each viscoplastic energy contribution ratio. This energy ratio indicates the degree of importance or influence of that input on the output strain variable. The steps described above provide the simplest explanation of viscoplastic energy. Method of physics and engineering. VMT analysis results. My adult life journey. VMT energy study shows the following 3 important observations. First, my VMT energy contribution ratios are: wisdom is 47%, care is 42%, ambition is 11%. This finding confirms my initial expectation and reflects my personality traits and life missions. Accumulating academic knowledge, improving people skills, and strengthening working ability to gain brain power have always been my top priority. My soft and caring heart has driven me to help people in need, especially underprivileged children, who deserve opportunities for advanced college education. Thus far, I have provided assistance to over 10,000 children. Since my childhood, fame, power, and money have never been the goals of my life. They are only the byproducts or external proof of my knowledge, skills, and interpersonal relationships in modern society. I have never placed material gains ahead of my driving forces of life, continuous knowledge growth and relentless hard work. The above facts may be influenced by my father, who was one of the first German-trained Chinese surgeons around 100 years ago, and practiced in China during endless wars, the Japanese invasion, and the Civil War afterward. He was never rich, powerful, or famous, and always stayed away from political activities. His lifelong hobbies were reading and learning medicine, literature, history, and philosophy. I was also deeply influenced by my 2 professors in America, Professor James Andrews at the University of Iowa and Professor Norman Jones at MIT. Both of them dedicated their lives to teaching, researching, and taking care of their students. I am grateful that I have had 3 great mentors and role models in my life. Second, my 2 high energy points are entering MIT in 1972, selling my public traded company and leaving the high-tech industry in 2002. My 2 low energy points are continuing entrepreneurial journey with 7 failures beginning from 1981, experiencing severe health alarms from 5 heart attacks and kidney failure, which led me to begin self-studying and research medicine since 2010. Third, as shown in the attached diagram of cumulative VMT energy ratios, the turning point was in 2010, when my cumulative VMT energy reached about 80%. That was the year I decided to combat my chronic diseases, also, self-study and research medicine, lifestyle, and health to save my own life. This effort was later followed by sharing what I have learned with both normal people and future generations through YouTube, broadcasting and electronic books with PDF files based on my written and published 1,436 medical research papers. TDA method and analysis results. TDA focuses on geometric shape, data continuity, and trajectory across all 16 time periods, using the 4-dimensional dataset of worth strain, and the 3 stressors wisdom, care, ambition. I reconstructed the topological pathway of my 62-year adult life journey. Primary geometric axis wisdom as the dominant direction. The TDA trajectory shows that wisdom is the strongest and most stable directional driver across the entire manifold. From 0.10 in P01 to 0.90 in P16, the growth is continuous, monotonic, and without reversal. This produces a smooth, elongated backbone curve in the manifold. Topologically, this is the main axis of variation, and it aligns tightly with the long-term rise of worth from 20 to 90. This demonstrates the importance of knowledge and wisdom in shaping my entire life journey. In TDA terms, wisdom defines the primary connected component, and the dominant geometric slope. It represents the central force pulling the entire manifold upward. This confirms that my life trajectory has been primarily shaped by long-term academic learning, knowledge, accumulation, practical experience, and interpersonal skills. Combined together, these elements form my foundation of wisdom, which is associated with the brain. Secondary topological structure. Care as a fluctuating but important layer. Unlike wisdom, the care curve forms a wave-like pattern with 2 plateaus. Early life fluctuates between 0.30 and 0.45, but the topological pattern shows a sudden rise to 0.75 and 0.80 during P09 to P13, following my high-tech success, and the extended 9 years of charitable psychotherapy work for those in need. This corresponds to intense family, love and care responsibilities to my wife and children, caring for underprivileged children, and emotional involvement with others. Combined together, these elements form my foundation of care, which is associated with the heart. TDA shows these points as a curvature, bulge or outward expansion of the manifold. Instead of a straight line, the manifold develops a pronounced sideways loop during midlife. Age 48 through age 63, this secondary dimension reflects strong interpersonal and emotional commitments. After P12, care stabilizes at 0.50 until P15, then rises again to 0.80 by P16, forming a second loop. TDA interprets this as a reconnection of the manifold, where compassion re-strengthens during the late stage of my life, influenced by post-stroke reflections and my new mission of public education through mass communication, which is a part of care as well. Third geometric dimension, ambition, as a small but sharp spike. Ambition stays low and stable 0.05 to 0.10 for the first 8 periods, forming a thin, nearly flat layer of the manifold. However, between P09 and P10, when my high-tech company went public, it spikes sharply to 0.50 and 0.60. This creates a narrow but tall topological tower. This spike corresponds to the period when I built and then sold my public-traded semiconductor AI company, which generated fame and wealth in my life. After P10 2004, ambition drops back to the baseline region 0.10 to 0.20, forming a downward fold and returning to the main shape. This topological cycle shows that ambition was never a sustained motivation. It was only situational, tied to specific professional achievements, not a core life mission's driver. Worth trajectory, the shape of a rising manifold with one dip. The strained variable worth forms a mostly rising curve, from 20 in P01 to 90 in P16. TDA shape analysis shows one local valley at P06 when I decided to end my lonely and difficult entrepreneur life and enter the semiconductor industry, worth 35. I had 2 major geometric accelerations, P08 to P10 and P13 to P16, my health alarm period. The early valley corresponds to financial struggles and repeated startup failures. The late life acceleration, P14 P16, from 2017 to 2025, reflects the dramatic growth of meaning and fulfillment through paper writing, medical research, scientific contributions, and public education. The manifold overall shows an irreversible upward path, consistent with VPT principles of dynamic and irreversible system evolution. Global topological interpretation. When projecting the 4 variables into a TDA manifold, wisdom forms the spine, care forms the curvature loops, ambition forms a small peak and returns, worth rises with the spine and expands with the loops. A summarized observation is that the topological manifold is continuous with no discontinuities, meaning my life has been an unbroken developmental process without collapse, states, or disconnected phases. The overall shape resembles a gradually rising surface with a small trough in early midlife, and a large upward expansion in the later years. This geometric structure confirms that my long-term worth, fulfillment, is strongly correlated with wisdom and later life care or compassion, while ambition contributes only marginally and temporarily. TDA-based conclusions. Amazingly, the TDA findings, including both patterns and geometry, are fully consistent with the VMT results of patterns and energies. Describing the above statement in a more detailed way, the TDA geometry, directional trends, and shape transitions all match the VMT energy patterns, confirming that both methods are capturing the same underlying system behavior. Wisdom is the dominant force shaping the 60-year life trajectory. Care or compassion creates major loops that enhance worth. During midlife and late life, ambition is only a minor, temporary factor and never a structural driver. Worth follows the geometric shape created by the interplay of wisdom and care, compassion, rising most strongly after 2010. Topologically, my life journey is a stable, upward-moving manifold with increasing smoothness and coherence. This geometric pattern captures the essence of my internal development, better than any traditional social science method based mainly on statistics. Combined VPT conclusion. When I look back at my 62-year adult life through VPT, the combined lenses of VMT and TDA, I can finally see the deeper structure behind the events, decisions, successes, failures, turning points, healing, and inner peace that shaped who I am today. This study does not aim to praise myself nor minimize my struggles. Instead, it provides a clearer and more objective understanding of how my life evolved over time, and why certain patterns persisted across decades. The VMT results show that wisdom and care have been the dominant, long-term drivers of my life, while ambition contributed only briefly and in specific situations. These numerical findings match what I have lived for more than 60 years as an adult, my lifelong pursuit of learning, knowledge accumulation, skill improvement, stronger people, relationships, deeper analytical ability, better problem solving, and non-stop academic curiosity, has formed the core of my personality, thinking, and actions. At the same time, my sense of responsibility toward others, especially underprivileged children, shaped many important periods of my life. The TDA manifold confirms these forces in geometric form. Wisdom forms the backbone of my life pathway. Care forms major loops that expand the manifold during midlife and late life. Ambition forms a short-lived peak. Worth rises along these geometric structures, with a major surge after 2010, when I started my medical research. Work to save my own life and help other patients through knowledge sharing. One important realization is that my life trajectory has remained continuous despite many setbacks. Even during my deepest failures, health crises, and financial difficulties, the energy model and geometry manifold never collapsed. The system stayed intact and eventually continued rising. My life has been an irreversible, self-repairing, nonlinear system driven by learning, caring, resilience, and reflection, rather than by chasing material gains. This study also helped me understand the influence of my father and two professors and life mentors. Their values, character, and commitment to learning, serving, and teaching appear clearly in the zero-high-sucal energy and geometric shape of my life. By applying real mathematics and physics-based modeling to my own life journey, I now see my life more clearly, and recognize why certain turning points changed my direction. A human life, when examined through the frameworks of VPT, VMT plus TDA, reveals its own shape, patterns, and forces. This approach gives me clarity and understanding, not self-pity or self-pride. It helps me appreciate the meaning and purpose behind my development across more than 6 decades, and explains why my life continues to grow in fulfillment and stability. During its later years of 79, disclaimer, I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical or financial advice. No doctor-patient or advisor-client relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.